Time for a spiritual awakening. Time for a spiritual awakening.
Well, today we're going to be reading out of 365 Days of Richer Living. This is by Ernest Holmes, founder of the Science of Mind and Religious Science movement. New Thought. This is an entry in the book for May 29th. It says, "Today I feel the active power of God in everything." Well, this is an interesting title. Today I feel the active power of God in everything. God is omnipresent. God is omnipotent. God is omniscient. That means that there is no place, no spot where God is not. And also that means that in my mind is actively contemplating only the thoughts of God, the creative, loving, light-filled thoughts of God itself. There is nothing else in my mind. I may make up things with the ego, and that's a possibility. Nevertheless, it's impossible, because nothing unreal exists from that which does not have a cause. And since there's no place where God is not in my mind, anything other than God, such as the ego in my mind, is a false belief and doesn't have a cause, so there's no effect. No cause, no effect. Any thoughts that I have that are ungodly, unloving, uncreative, have no effect. And thus the world that I see, based on wrong-minded thinking, is an illusion or a dream. The Hindus call it Maya. We want to awaken from the Maya or the dream. The awakening process has many facets. The Course in Miracles teaches that forgiveness is the key to awakening from the illusion of the egoic thoughts and unreality of the dream of Maya. What we're doing is we're uncovering that which is true. We're letting go of and dispelling wrongful thinking. Wrongful thinking, again, has no cause, since everything is of God. And if it isn't of God, it's not real. And so there's no effects. And so we're dispelling or having corrected for us with the Holy Spirit, God of our understanding, love, all that is is untrue. Therefore, there's no guilt. Sin is impossible. Death is impossible. They are not of God. Only God is the power in everything. Back to the title of today's reading in Ernest Holmes' book. Today I feel the active power of God in everything. So my identification is either with God or nothing. And if it's with nothing, then I'm not really thinking. And I'm not really perceiving anything as well. It would be false imagery. It would be in the nature of a mirage. And the nature of my mindset would be one of amnesia. I'd forgotten. Forgetting means that I'm not awake. I have to awaken to remember. The Buddha was awake. Jesus was awake. They are two examples of master teachers and mystics, prophets. Two individuals who identified solely with the Spirit of God and then awoke, self-actualized. That is possible for each and every one of us. I can know my Christ nature because it is the truth. It has a cause, God. It has an effect, Christ. That is the only identity that I share with all my brothers and sisters, is God-centered Christ, God-centered Buddha. Everything else is Maya. Everything else is samsara. Samsara is the suffering in a world which does not really exist. And yet we believe wrongfully that it is our identity. Body, world, false mind, ego, all of that is fearful, guilt-ridden. There's nothing that I can do except turn to the God within, which is omnipresent and omniscient and omnipotent. And therein lies the power to restore me, to remind me, to awaken me, to undo the amnesia. We're not dealing in right or wrong here in the dualistic sense. We're not dealing with good or bad. We're simply dealing with being awake, aware, true consciousness of Christ and Buddhahood. All of this is possible. Let's read further. The key thought for our meditation today is the idea that there is an active presence of the creative spirit in all our affairs. Well, the only creative spirit would be God. Ego cannot create. Ego does not exist. It's a figment of one's false ideations. It's a distortion of the truth. And that which is untrue has no existence, no reality. As it says here, there is an active presence of the creative spirit in all our affairs, not something passive, but something that is moving in and through everything we do. The moving would refer to extension. I like that word. God extends infinitely and eternally, most definitely infinitely. Love, light. Light goes on forever. Not the light that we talk about on the earthly plane, but the light that we talk about in the godly, the spiritual, the heavenly plane of existence, the only true existence that there is, goes on infinitely. There's no end to the light. There is no end to the love. We should affirm that this divine presence is everywhere. Well, that's right. It's infinite. There's no spot where it is not. That it is always active in, around, and through me, through us. Again, our minds are beacons, like a lighthouse. And we can extend, or co-extend, if you will, the love and the light that is infinite. God put it, the light, the love, the creative essence, the infinite in our minds. Our function, our purpose, is to act as a lighthouse, shining that light. Today I will acknowledge the truth in me. I will allow the light that shines within me to light upon the world forever. Believing that the divine spirit, which is love, is at the center of everything in my mind and at the very center of my own true being. I recognize this presence harmoniously acting in me, as me, through me, not at the level of form, but at the level of the essential, the inherent, the beginningless and the endless, the mind and the soul, the Christ and the Buddha, the Tao. The Tao is the way. The way emanates from the beginningless and the endless. We are an expression of Tao. I praise it. I love the worshiping of the creative God within me. And I bless it, the creative God that created the Christ and the Buddha and the Tao within me, in my mind, as a soul, and recognize that it is doing the work and in harmony with divine love and divine life. That's all there is divine love and divine life. Again, everything else is a dream, is Maya. Nothing unreal exists. If God did not create it and extend it infinitely, then it does not exist. It's an illusion, a delusion, a false perception. What are examples of false perceptions? Well, the first one would be separation between each other and from God. It's as if we're separate. We have our own physical limits, and that creates a space around us. And others have physical limits, and they have a space around them, designating where they end and possibly I begin. But that's not true. Can you imagine that our perception of contrasts and separations is delusional? Now, it does work on a pragmatic and functional level for learning purposes. I can use the Maya to learn lessons in inseparability, in oneness, remembering through love and forgiveness that I and my brother are one. I love my neighbor as myself. I would treat others as I would treat myself. And I would have others treat me as they would treat themselves. We all want the same thing. We all think the same from the same origins. That origin is God in heaven. So it's possible to learn at the level of Earth School. But ultimately we transcend ego and separation and recognize what the Course in Miracles calls a sonship. It's a unity of one, expressed by the one, capital O. There's its entirety in a nutshell. There's one creator, and one created Christ, Buddha, fully awake, fully aware of its own nature and of love and of light. And that awareness extends infinitely. It shines mystically. It blesses, and it is one with divine love and divine life, recognizing the same presence in everyone I meet. It's the same presence in everyone, which makes us all one. I salute the God in people. Namaste. And I know that as surely as I do this, the God in them responds to the same divine presence that is within me. Therefore, I love others and act in unison with them. Well, there's the learning aspect. While we're in the three-dimensional, or believe we're in the three-dimensional world, we act in unison with others to learn our lessons, to learn that separation is a false belief, to learn that only love and oneness, true wisdom and knowledge, true light, comes from one source and extends as one. It couldn't be any other. Form is impossible. Only content, only the love of God, of Christ and Buddha is the reality. But the form has an experiential, five sensory reality, which we know at a molecular and an atomic level really is all moving. It's all space. It's really not. There's no matter there. When you break it down further into its seeming component parts, it's all space. We put it together in our wrong minds so that it makes for a certain form, and we collectively name it and agree upon it. And then we forget that we made up the collective ideation of the form rather than seeing the space that exists. Now, why is this a problem? Because it's unlike God's creation. And therefore, it's not true. And any thoughts or seeming existence in unreality is hell. The only thing that's true is heaven. Whereas it says here, therefore I love others and act in unison with them as we are all one, recognizing the same presence in everyone I meet. Recognizing the one mind that governs everything consciously, I affirm that this same intelligence is governing all of their affairs. This one creative mind, which I call God, love, is within all of us and around all of us as one, all the time. It's directing, guiding, governing, controlling, and leading us happily to the fulfillment of all good purpose, which would be a reunification in mind to the heaven that exists as our home, filled with light, the Holy of Holies, filled with light. And of course we have to purify first, purify our thinking, purify our minds, get rid of the obscurations and the blocks to the awareness of the oneness that is the truth for us in our existence. This takes many lifetimes because we have such great resistance to abdicating the ego identification of separation and specialness and individuality. Tremendous resistance and a repetitive compulsion to keep that going, a chronic ideation over and over and over again, reviewing the same false untruth, unreality, Maya, and deceptively believing as an amnesiac that it's the truth. The more I get into this work and practice through forgiveness and turning through worshipful communion to the Creator, the more I understand. And then I see the egoic belief system, the chronic repetition, encroaching on my thinking again. And so I say, well, this is another lesson. I can use this. I bless it and release it as untrue. It goes back to nothingness. And I know peace then. I know perfect peace. I even see more truly in my perspective and my perception. Why? Because I'm aligning my vision with Christ's and Buddha's. And there we know the truth, and it sets us free. And being perfect love, it casts out all fear. This is the nature of the work and the practice. No diminution of it or dilution of it. Just the hardball truth. And really, it's not the hardball. Truth is, as we say, omnipresent and gentle. It's so loving. It heals that which seems wounded. There's no wounding. There's no separation of minds and souls from God. It's impossible. What God has created, no man can place or put asunder. You can think it, but thinking doesn't make it true unless you're in your right mind. You're in the wrong ego mind. You're not thinking. You're fantasizing. If you're in your right Christ Buddha mind, then you're thinking creatively. And you think then holistically as a hologram. The whole is greater than the sum of its parts. There are no parts. There's no form. There's only the thing itself. Thinking with Christ Buddha, loving thoughts, forgiving thoughts. The nature of man and woman is undone, and it's all angelic. Are you prepared for your angelic identity? And even there's a sense of separation. We're not separate angels any more than sunbeams are separate from each other and from the sun. Or waves. Waves are observable, but it's all water. So what's true? It's just water. It's not a separate wave. Unless you want to be mesmerized, sleep, dreamily thinking that it's separate, and it's a special wave. Maybe the wave that you want to ride. Maybe you equate yourself with a wave. But we know that waves are not infinite. They're impermanent. God doesn't create impermanence. If it's of an impermanent nature, it's unreal and it's untrue, because God did not create the impermanent. We know this. The mystics have told us this. The mystics within us tell us this. Pick your guru. Pick your teacher wisely. There are many advanced, non-physical masters, teachers who have taught this. We want to learn and practice wisely. And don't forget to have a good time too, because it's filled with happiness and it's filled with joy and bliss. There's nothing dark about this science. Nothing dark about it whatsoever. Recognizing all nature as the handiwork of God. Now we're talking about the infinite, no form, simply space, space of love, eternality, infinitude. I see beauty in everything while I'm learning in the classroom. My mind is now aligned with God, and so I see beauty in the form. But I also recognize it's transitory. And I have no fear around it being transitory. I see beauty in everything. I'm one with the wind. No separation. All space. And the wave. I'm one with the wave. With sunshine. And the sunbeams. And the sun. And the clouds. With everything. that God has created. Well, God only created the space in which form can seem to appear. But it's the space that's the reality, the heavenly space of eternity. No limits, no boundaries, no impermanence. Oneness, yes. Love, light, bliss, all of that is true. I'm one with the wind and the wave, with sunshine and cloud, with everything that God has created permanently. So these are metaphors, the wave, the sunshine, the cloud, the wind. These are metaphors for the eternal, the permanent, the eternal and the infinite. View it all that way. Align your thinking that way. Recognize the truth and it will set you free. Well, this is a wonderful reading from 365 Days of Richer Living. And of course, I recommend it. I recommend Ernest Holmes, but I also recommend A Course in Miracles as an interpretive guide to New Thought. New Thought in and of itself, I think, is not as helpful as the ultimate truth of metaphysics as it can be. A non-dualistic approach to New Thought, not a dualistic approach. And that's what I teach, and that's what this ministry is all about. Sharing the truth as I teach to learn. And as I teach to learn, I awaken. And I find myself more loving of myself. I've accepted the atonement more and more for myself, redemption and salvation in Christ and Buddha. I've recognized that I'm home, maybe dreaming occasionally, dreaming of exile, separation. But I'm more and more willing to let that go and use it as a classroom, but not as a reality. It's a big difference. That's how you can forgive and love unconditionally, because all of the unloving, unforgiving aspects are not true. God never created them. You can forgive them. Let them go. Poof, they're gone. Well, I want to thank the NECAT Network for putting on my videos and also putting them up on the YouTube. Thank you to my dear wife, Candace, for editing these tapes, these videos. And thank you, dear viewer. I love you. Shalom, namaste, and we'll see you next time. God bless.